What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to examine Uncanny X-Men issue 143, brought to you by all of these fine folks. I think that this is John Byrne's last issue on the series. A few issues ago, we had a scene where Colossus was pulling a tree stump out of the ground, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back, with some tension that had been building up between Byrne and Claremont, where Byrne felt like Claremont was undermining the art with captions that didn't really match what Byrne intended in the art, and so a few issues were already completed from Byrne's point of view anyway, by the time he saw that issue and said, well, okay, fine, I'm leaving. And I believe this is Byrne's last issue on the series for, I want to say for good. He has come back and done some X-Men stuff, but as far as this series goes, I don't think Byrne is coming back. But this issue, not a whole lot to say here, although every time I say that and think it's going to be like a 5-minute video, it ends up being 20 minutes long. But the X-Men are going out to the opera, I think. Angel has a date with Candy Southern, and Kitty is home alone. And this issue has the scene where Nightcrawler tries to kiss Mariko Yoshida on the cheek, and then Wolverine pulls out his claws and tries to attack Nightcrawler. This came from Jim Shooter himself. He apparently did not like when Byrne and Claremont had Wolverine kill some guys at the beginning of the Dark Phoenix saga. He said, no, Wolverine cannot be a killer. You have to reveal that those guys are still alive. But then he also accused Claremont and Byrne of making Wolverine a sissy, and said that he has to be the kind of guy who, at a moment's notice, at the drop of a hat, Wolverine could try to kill his friends. And that's a really weird group of mixed messages coming from Jim Shooter, and I don't want to make Shooter seem like a bad guy. If it wasn't for his meddling with what Claremont and Byrne were doing, the Dark Phoenix saga would have ended very differently. Claremont wanted Jean and Scott to have a happy ending, and John Byrne drew Jean exterminating a inhabited solar system, and Jim Shooter saw that and said, no, Jean and Scott cannot have a happy ending after she's committed genocide. She has to either go to space prison or she has to die. And I feel like the Dark Phoenix saga is a better story because of Jim Shooter's involvement. A lot of times, fans and creators and fans who fancy themselves as would-be creators, they strongly dislike editorial interference, but in this case, I feel like the Dark Phoenix saga is a better story because of Jim Shooter. And I don't know if I talked about that when I was examining those issues, but then looking at the Hellfire goons, who later become the Reavers, I like the Reavers as occasional enemies of the X-Men. And we wouldn't have gotten them if it wasn't for Jim Shooter saying that those Hellfire guys need to be revealed that they're still alive. Now, in this case, Shooter saying that Wolverine needs to try and kill Nightcrawler for no good reason. It's a little weird, but you take the good, you take the bad, and there you have the facts of life. So the X-Men leave, and then Kitty, she's like, oh no, I've never been alone on Hanukkah before. She tries to call her parents, they're not home, and then Scott calls, and he says, okay, well, tell the X-Men I said Merry Christmas, and then we see that he is going to be getting a job on a boat with Captain Lee Forrester, and she is going to be kind of sort of his rebound, I guess, for lack of a better word. We will see a sort of relationship between these two, kind of, in the upcoming issues. In fact, next issue, I think we're getting almost exclusively a Cyclops adventure. But then Kitty is training in the Danger Room, trying to work off some stress, I guess. She's disappointed that she's home alone. She feels lonely, so she goes to the Danger Room, and then there's an intruder alarm. I should point out, the issue actually opened with one of the Ingarai demons way back before issue 100, the issue with the Cairn. There was a demon attack on the Xavier grounds. Some kind of pillar or statue or something with ancient hieroglyphs on it, and it was a portal to a demon dimension, and Storm was able to destroy that portal and then seemingly closed it off, no more demons. But then somehow one of the demons is able to crawl through, just one. I don't know how. I don't know if this is one of the demons from that issue, and somehow it's just been hanging out here for like years. I don't know. And I say years, it really, it's kind of weird when you're reading these issues. It doesn't feel like that much time has passed. You get to like an issue where all the X-Men are in the Savage Land, and you get the feeling they've been there for a little while, because Cyclops has a pretty good beard, and we see him shaving and stuff like that, and then they're in the boat going to Japan, and it takes them a while to get there. So some time has passed since Giant Size issue 1, but I don't get the feeling that it's been a whole lot of time. But then you get to this issue, and at one point, the demon, after it's attacked a couple people who are wanting to get a Christmas tree for their apartment, it goes to the mansion after everybody is left, and then the meat of this issue is Kitty Pryde running from this Ingerai demon. And at one point, she thinks to herself, last September, she called the police when a tree branch had broken through the window, and she didn't know what it was. And the way she says that, last September, is weird, because this issue is set around Christmas/Hanukkah time, and incidentally, I don't know if we have revealed at this point that Kitty is Jewish, but here she mentions she's never been home alone during Hanukkah, so obviously she's Jewish. I don't think that had been revealed before now. Maybe it had, and I just hadn't been paying attention. But anyway, she says last September. Now, that makes me think that she has been with the X-Men for like a year and 3 months, which does not make sense, because she's only been with the X-Men for like 3 issues so far. She actually came to the school at the very end of the Dark Phoenix saga. Then we had the 2-parter where Wolverine and Nightcrawler went to fight the Wendigo, and then we had the 2-part Days of Future Past storyline, and then this issue. So 5 issues she's been at the school, but she says last September. Now, if it's December, and I wanted to talk about something that happened 3 months ago, I wouldn't say last September. I would say in September, I called the police. But because she says last September, that makes me think that it wasn't a few months ago, it was a year and a few months ago. So I think that's just a mistake. I don't think that there could possibly have been a year and change in between issues here. Even if you look at like at the end of the Dark Phoenix saga, where it's a little while after Jean's death when they're having the funeral, like maybe a month later or something like that. Even if you try and say, okay, a little bit of time here, a little bit of time there, I still don't see anywhere where you could say that there was a year and a few months since Kitty has come to the school. I think it would make more sense if September she called the police like a week after she came to the school, and then a few months later it's Hanukkah and everybody goes to the opera. I am going to interpret it that way. That's the only way that it makes sense to me. Anyway, Kitty Pryde is running around the mansion trying to get away from this scary looking demon, and I don't want to compare and contrast too much with art styles. I don't want to speak ill of the dead. Dave Cockrum is no longer with us, but I do feel like John Byrne draws a scarier Ingerai demon than Cockrum. Nothing against Cockrum's art style. I really like his interpretation of the X-Men, but as far as the Ingerai goes, I do feel like John Byrne's version is scarier and just creepier in general. Both of them feel, well, see, this definitely, I feel like they are really going after the movie Alien, but the first appearance of the Ingerai, which would have been like 75 or early 76, I don't think that the movie Alien would have been out at that time. So I don't think that Claremont and Cockrum were thinking about Alien when they first introduced the Ingerai demons, but then this issue, they definitely were. In fact, I think Kitty even mentions that they use flamethrowers in that movie, but then I was thinking, I don't think they use flamethrowers in Alien. They use flamethrowers in Aliens, which was well after this issue, so now I'm thinking Kitty was actually referencing the movie The Thing with, John Carpenter's The Thing with Kurt Russell. But anyway, she's running around the mansion, and then we get to see her use her brains because her powers are not really offensive in nature. We will see a little while down the road, there's alternate versions of Kitty that are able to use her powers in scarier ways, but as of this moment, Kitty, her powers are mostly defensive in nature, so she's not really able to do anything with her powers. And she does mention at one point, it's kind of bogus that the professor makes me train in a gym. We don't need our bodies, we just need our superpowers. Well, then here, her superpowers don't really do her any good. In fact, at one point, the Ingerai demon, it attacks her, she phases, but it still hurts her, because this thing has some kind of magic in it. And so her ability to phase doesn't help, so she still has to run. And if she hadn't been trained training her body in the danger room, she might not have been able to have run and got away from this thing. And she is able to use her mind to track, she lures it into the danger room, and then that doesn't really work, and then it follows her down the runway where the Blackbird is parked, and then she's able to kill it with the rocket from the Blackbird. And then the Professor and the X-Men, they return, and they bring Kitty's parents with them to meet her, and it's a nice happy reunion there. And I seem to recall that Kitty's parents were kind of having some marital difficulties whenever the X-Men first visited her, but now it seems like things are a little bit better between them. I should have mentioned earlier that in this issue, Kitty has some mistletoe over Colossus's head and kisses him on the cheek. This begins the Kitty Colossus romance that I do not understand. Kitty is 13 in this issue. Colossus is older. I thought that Colossus was canonically about 18 as of now. I seem to recall somewhere saying that he was about that old in these issues, but going through them recently, I haven't seen anywhere, or I don't remember seeing anywhere, where he said that he was 18 as of now. But I definitely get the feeling that he is older. Definitely older than 13. And so this relationship has always been weird and creepy to me. Now, if it was just Kitty crushing on an older guy, and Colossus was kind of like, oh, you flatter me, but no, I'm a little bit older, that'd be fine, but then later these two do kind of have more of a relationship. It doesn't really go anywhere for a very long time, till the Whedon run, I think, is when things finally culminate between these two, but it's still really weird to me how many X-Men fans are on board with the Kitty Colossus ship, but then you get to the early 2000s and you have Angel and Husk, and everybody was like, no, boo, we hate that, and there's probably as much, maybe a little bit more of an age gap between Warren and Husk, and everybody hated that. But then you have Kitty and Colossus, where there's, in my opinion, a pretty sizable gap there, and nobody seems to have a problem with that. In fact, when Colossus breaks up with Kitty after Secret Wars, everybody kind of hated him for it, or at least in story, people kind of hated him for it, and I don't really get it. I feel like if it was just Kitty crushing on an older guy, that'd be understandable. When you're a young teenager, you might like girls who are a little bit older, as the outfield once said. But it's really weird in later issues when this romance is not so one-sided. At least in my opinion, it's kind of weird. But this is the beginning of that. And that's about all that I have to say in this issue. This is not the first, this is not the last time that Chris Claremont does a seemingly helpless girl on the run from a monster in the mansion issue. He does this again quite a bit later, after the Mutant Massacre, Sabretooth chasing Psylocke through the mansion. So this kind of slasher movie-esque thing going on here, Claremont will rely on this again in later issues. But that is about all that I have to say about this issue, so in the meantime, let's consider this one examined.